So this here is the new ball for the 2026 World Cup. It's called the adidas Trionda, and apparently it's even more aerodynamic than before, which to be fair, they always say. But in today's video, I'm gonna tell you about the new tech, the new design, and of course go over what it actually feels like to play with on the pitch, mentioning what's good and maybe also not so fantastic to help you decide if you should buy the Trionda Pro or not. Let's do it. But first things first, the design, which is a celebration of the three host nations, meaning that, as you can see, the design is kind of split in three. So you have the blue part with a star in it as a reference to the United States, then you have the red bit with a maple leaf for Canada, and then of course you have the green part with an eagle in it for Mexico. And then there is the name, Trionda, which means three waves. Onda in Spanish means wave, apparently. And it is a reference to the the collective waves of joy and euphoria that will ripple through the host nations, according to the official press release at least. But to be honest, I can't be mad at all of that PR fluff because personally at least, I think the design looks absolutely beautiful. This windmill-shaped panel design here, and of course the use of the colors, is just giving me heavy bazooka vibes, and I am here for it. And there are just so many little cool details in the panels with like gold accents for the World Cup trophy and stuff, and yeah, that's a win in my book. Like, but apart from having similar-ish panel shapes, that's also where the tech comparisons stop with the bazooka. Because the bazooka had 8 panels. This one, though, has only 4, which is a significant reduction from the World Cup ball from 22 that had 20 panels. Now, having only 4 panels also means that you have fewer of these slightly more dense connection points where the panels meet. And also, having fewer panels means that the ball is now more spherical. And that might mean that some of you who remembers the Jabulani or the Team Geist might get sweaty palms because those balls were lauded for being almost perfectly spherical, but they also moved like mad in the air. However, Adidas have a solution for that. And that solution would be these big, purposely built grooves that are all over the ball, which is supposed to give you a faster, more consistent flight pattern. And when you combine that with the fewer panels, meaning that you have some big panel edges here, it means that you go in and significantly lower the drag when the ball flies through the air. Now, when we talk about drag, imagine a ball flying through the air. Let's make it a smooth one like the Jabulani. So it hits the air, and the air kind of starts to move around the ball. But because the surface is smooth, there's not that much to actually kind of go in and grab the air and pull it with it around the ball. So when it comes up or goes under the ball, it kind of just continues that same direction out back, leaving a big vacuum behind the ball that drags it, which also means that it reduces the speed and can also cause it to move unpredictably, which we saw with the Jabulani. However, if the ball has a lot of grooves and in general a lot of texture on the surface, when it hits the air and the air starts to move around it, it also grabs the air and kind of pulls the air with it down behind the ball, filling up that space where the air would be, causing less drag, ensuring a faster flight speed and a more consistent flight pattern.
Physics, apparently.
Okay, Jay, so it has fewer panels and more grooves. That's cool. But how does it actually feel to play with the Trionda? Well, the thing is that if we look at the Fussballliebe from the Euros from last year, it also had a lot of grooves and debossed areas. And in many ways, the Trionda feels similar, which to me is a great thing. The Fussballliebe was a great football. But not only because it has the grooves, but also because it shares this similar, slightly soft, almost spongy feel to this foam casing, which is really nice, something I personally like a lot. And it's not only from a first touch point of view, but also when you strike the ball, it gives you this, maybe it's wrong to call it soft, but more like this slightly cushioned sensation that then it offers this premium feel, cushion feel as you strike the ball, which then instantly more or less transforms or transitions into this lovely, firm, really responsive sensation as you put your foot through it. And actually, that's one of the things I enjoy the most about the Trionda. This transition from a slightly cushioned to a more firm and responsive feel. And when we talk about this power transfer, I really enjoy the Trionda because when you strike it hard and true, you can really make this thing move. And somehow, and it might just be a gut feeling, but it feels as if it gets into gear a little bit quicker than the Fussballliebe. I mean, we're talking margins here, but it just feels ever so slightly less sluggish than Fussball. It was not a sluggish football, but hopefully you know what I mean. This just feels like it gets going a little bit quicker. What I also enjoy is the flight pattern. In the air, it seems fairly stable and reliable. It's not so like brilliant super stable, but it feels stable enough. And when you strike it, it goes where you want it to and how you want it to, in my experience at least. But one of the things that I enjoy the most on the Trionda is the fact that each panel now seems to have a bigger sweet spot, meaning that it feels more uniform to do first touches with and to strike, especially compared to the Fussballliebe and the 2022 World Cup ball that had a lot of these little points where the panels met. They are a little bit more dense and firm, but now, given that you have bigger panels, it just feels ever so slightly more, well, you know, uniform, consistent, no matter where you touch it. And that's a great little thing that actually matters a lot, to me at least. And generally speaking, the Trionda is just a really good, but also very importantly, a fun football to play with. And okay, it might not have that dead reliability that we see in the Select Brilliant Super, which to me is still the best football on the market, but the Trionda is definitely top 3 because it just has that really nice balance between this slightly padded initial sensation and then this hidden power once you follow through with your foot as you strike it. Also, I want to mention the texture here. By the way, it's made up of the star, the eagle, and the maple leaf, which is a pretty cool little feature, but it also feels very similar to the texture on the UCL Pro, which is the Champions League ball. It has this slightly matte, almost gritty sensation to it, a slightly flat texturing, but you still feel it. But when you compare the Trionda to the Champions League ball, I simply like this a lot more because it just feels less, how do I say it, dense on the foot. It's a little bit lighter to the touch and feels a lot faster in the air. And I enjoy that. Oh, knees. Oh, ah. However, it's not all waves of joy and euphoria with Trionda. So here are a few annoying things that you also need to know about. And the first one is the price. Look, I realize that there's been a lot of research and development going into this, which is expensive. But 150 euros is a lot of money for a football. And sure, it's a really good football, but it's a lot of money for a football. Full stop. And while generally I like the feeling of the Trionda, somehow it also still maintains a little bit of that slightly pingy, I don't want to call it plasticky, but that feeling where it just maybe adds a little bit of like weight and solidity where you strike the ball compared to what is for me the golden standard, the Select Brilliant Super. And I know it's being really nitpicky, but I am a nitpicky guy. So for me, there's just a little bit of room for improvement in terms of making it have a little bit more body as you strike the ball. It shouldn't be dense or heavy, but just a little bit more like ball to it, if you know what I mean. And also, if you expect this to move like the bazooka, just because it has the same panel shapes or colors, or go even crazier and move like the Jabulani or the Team Guys, well, this is not the football you're looking for. It's wild, but it's not crazy. And on a dry pitch, the Trionda can feel a little bit sticky at times because of the texturing here, especially if you wear a pair of Predators or Phantom 6 Elite. Because it might just be that if you're on a slightly sticky or dry surface and you kind of step on top of the ball with a sticky boot, well, the ball in the boot might just get stuck to the point where, well, I've tripped on the ball a couple of times, and while it might not be a deal breaker, I just had to get used to it, if you know what I mean. And I just have to tell you, a little bit sticky. At the end of the day though, I do think that the Trionda Pro is a great football. Performance-wise, it's really nice, it's fun to play with, but if I'm being honest with you guys, it also feels a bit more like an evolution from the Fussballliebe, more than this big revolution where they started from scratch and made something we've never ever seen before. But then at the same time, I don't really mind because the Fussballliebe to me was one of the best adidas footballs I've used in a while that I've thoroughly enjoyed. And I'd probably argue that because of having that slightly more uniform sweet spot, I would probably prefer the Trionda. It's just a really good football, and still, it feels like an Adidas World Cup ball. It has character, it's fun to play with, and still there's just less of the bullshit that we've seen previously. So yeah, I'm a fan, and I just love the way it looks. But guys and girls, what do you think? Well, let me know in the comment section right down below. Remember that you can buy the Trionda Pro and all the other Triondas in the link right over there to Unisport. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel with the notifications on. And with those words, I'm looking forward to the World Cup. I'll be signing off. Cheerio.